his face, 'cause Dallas Cowboys football is his happy place.
This is the One Star Cowboys podcast, and we're wrapping up the week with our typical Friday, kind of tying everything together, anything we might have left out in the previous show, and then also just kind of updating you mostly because at the end of the week, let's be honest, there's a lot of injury stuff that comes out that pertains to this weekend's game. You might be at this point in the season where you don't care about the injury report and who's playing because you were already out on the season. So we will touch on some other things, but like I said, this is our normal end-of-week show, be usually around 10 minutes. So we'll just start you off with this. Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, released on Friday, and that led to some speculation about maybe the Cowboys having some interest there. The Cowboys don't have any interest. Stephen Jones was on ESPN San Antonio Friday afternoon, and he said as much that they think that they're in good shape at quarterback. They still want to see more from Cooper Rush and Trey Lance, and then just talked about how that their obvious long-term commitment is to Dak Prescott. And so if you had any interest in them possibly adding Daniel Jones, that does not sound like that's going to happen. Stephen Jones also was on 105 Through the Fan Friday afternoon. A couple of the highlights he talked about on there is that there's been no discussion in the building about changing offensive play caller. Mike McCarthy was asked about that this week too, as if it's even better consideration to potentially maybe let Brian Schottenheimer call the plays. That's not happening. Mike McCarthy will be calling the plays as long as he's head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So no changes you should expect to see on that, whether it's this weekend or in the next few weeks following until the season ends. Kind of earlier in the week, kind of big deal on social media was the video that surfaced of Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb at a club that apparently it was after the Cowboys' Monday night loss. Not sure. I wasn't there. Couldn't tell you exactly when that video was taken, if it was Monday night or whatever. But Stephen Jones was also asked about that, and he said it's not something that concerns him because he says that, basically that the players, that they work hard and that's not something that he's really worried about. So I know it's been a big topic. People kind of on two sides of this thing. Some people think that with how bad the team's playing, that they shouldn't be going out, especially after losses. Other people, and this is the group I'm probably falling to, it doesn't really bother me. I really don't care, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that big of an issue, but it is what it is. I don't think that anything I'm going to say is going to change anybody's mind one way or the other. So just kind of your own opinion on that one. Injury updates, we'll get to that one. And there's a lot of people on this injury report. But Fridays is the one that probably gives you the best kind of guide to who will probably be playing on Sunday. And so Jake Ferguson with a concussion has officially been ruled out, so you're not going to see him for sure. Zach Martin is doubtful, and judging by what Steven said, I would say that is very unlikely that he'll play. He's probably out. He's dealing with ankle injuries to both ankles and a shoulder. So to be honest, it probably is even up in the air if he'll even play on Thanksgiving against the Giants. Those are the two notables that are out. Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Smith, Brandon Cooks, Chuma Edoga, and Marshawn Nealon are all questionable, but it sounds like those are all pointing in the right direction. So if that does happen and all of those guys play, that means that, Brandon Cooks would be returning from an injury that he's been out with a knee for several weeks. Chuma Edoga has been out with that toe injury since training camp, so he would be making his season debut. Marshawn Nealon would be coming back from his knee injury that's kept him out for about a month. And then the other one to mention too is Deron Bland, who he's been a full go in practice. I believe it is every day this week he has. And so he doesn't have a game designation, which that means that he's expected to play. And so that would be his season debut. Of course, he's been out since training camp with the foot injury. And then last but not least in that area would be CeeDee Lamb. He popped up on the injury list where he had been dealing with a little bit of back issues, but then now there was also a foot issue that was added on Thursday. He was a full go in practice on Friday, and he is also expected to play Sunday in Washington. And speaking of Washington, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn still keeps in touch with Micah Parsons quite a bit. Micah said this week that they still talk, if not every week, every 2 weeks. And so even adding that Dan Quinn helped him get some tickets for his family for this weekend's game. So I know that there's been some people, I posted the quotes from Micah about this, and there's some folks that think that this is tampering, that Micah shouldn't be talking to the coach of the other team, and the coach of the other team shouldn't be giving him tickets. So props to Micah for being honest and giving us more than just canned answers that so many do, and actually gave us a little behind the scenes. So I found that kind of interesting. But I have also seen on social media that some fans do not like that at all and believe that Washington should be penalized many draft picks for this tampering. Don't think that's going to happen. Last one I had for you is really on this whole, a lot of talk about the potential of Deion Sanders being the Cowboys' next head coach, and a package deal where the Cowboys could be a top 5 draft pick and get Shador Sanders, Deion's son, who's the quarterback at Colorado, and that combo would be the future of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't see that happening, and that's for several reasons. One, just hearing Steven talk on the radio on Friday, whether he's talking about the Daniel Jones situation, whether he's talking about the Trey Lance situation, where he said on 105 through the fan that there are no regrets about trading that 4th for Trey Lance, that there was some uncertainty if Dak would sign long-term with them, and so they had to be prepared if they were going to go in another direction if Dak decided to leave. Dak is clearly part of their long-term plans. He's signed for the next 4 seasons after this one. So the idea of drafting Shador Sanders, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't see any way the Cowboys would try and make a move with Dak and then draft Shador Sanders. It's so unlikely and so unrealistic to me that I didn't even think I would talk about it, but here we are. So the other side of it is Deion Sanders coaching the Cowboys. I know there's a lot of talk about that. I've had my doubts about that just because Deion doesn't have any pro coaching experience. And if you follow really what Jerry Jones has done when he hires a head coach, it has been someone who has had some previous coaching experience, and I think that will be the case on whatever the next hire is too. I think it'll be somebody not only with coaching experience. If I'm betting right now, it's somebody who has had head coaching experience in the NFL. So I just think Deion is extremely unlikely. I understand that it garners a lot of attention. He's such a huge figure, very polarizing. It would be fascinating from my standpoint on covering games, particularly at home. Just the idea of Deion talking at the podium while Jerry's outside the locker room talking would really make it difficult to decide where I'm going to go after games. But I would, not that anyone cares about that, but that's just something I think about. I don't think I'm going to have to deal with that, though. So I don't see Deion Sanders as being the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And Jerry was asked on Thursday on 105 Through the Fan about that, and his comments were just basically, they didn't say specifically for the Cowboys, but his just future, coach in the NFL. And Jerry said, I think we're way ahead of ourselves relative to when and if he decides to go to coaching in the NFL. And then Jerry went on to say, and I'm going to paraphrase here because it was pretty long-winded, but it was that, one of Deion's greatest strengths is as a recruiter and how he's able to reach, kids that and bring them to Colorado or wherever he's coaching at, and how they look to him as that type of a leader and they want to play for his program. Well, that recruiting aspect doesn't really matter in the NFL. There's a draft, but you follow the Cowboys. There's not like there's a lot of recruiting that goes on in free agency. One, this team really doesn't do much in free agency, so I don't know where that would help there. So Jerry said all of that would go into his mind if it was, making a decision about him, being a head coach in the future. But he had to make no mistake about it. He's one of the top people, young or old, that he's been around in the NFL. Jerry loves Deion. There's no denying that. To be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, I just don't think that's very realistic. And I get it. It makes for great headlines. It's great to talk about on TV, pairing Deion Sanders with his son with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think that that's very realistic at all. So that's pretty much it for this show. I thought that there was some decent stuff in terms of the injuries, and then also what Steven had to share on 105 Through the Fan and on ESPN San Antonio. So, like I said, that's why we do these end of the week recaps, because we would be recording shows on Wednesday or Thursday for the Sunday game, and it just leaves so much out that happens later in the week. And so I like kind of tying it up and giving you some of the other little tidbits that come on later in the week. So basically, it doesn't look like we're going to see Zach Martin or Jake Ferguson in Washington, but it looks like we'll see Deron Bland making his season debut. CeeDee Lamb's good to go, and it could be the first time in a long time that we've seen Brandon Cooks and Marshawn Kneeland. And then, obviously, like I said, Daniel Jones, if you're hoping he was coming to the Cowboys, sounds like that's not happening. Hope that doesn't ruin your weekend. Thank you for listening. Keep checking back with us. We'll obviously have a show that will record record after the Washington game on Sunday, so be on the lookout for that on Monday. Appreciate everyone listening.
John's weekly recap, it's all the rage. He laughs and he hollers, takes center stage. Win or lose, he's got a grin on his face, 'cause Dallas Cowboys football is his happy place.